Seattle Seahawks are releasing safeties Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. That is according to NFL.com, which reports the moves will save about $27 million and significant cap space for the Seahawks.
Big news out of Seahawks. They are currently releasing Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs.
Diggs is a surprise.
Seattle Seahawks looking for the future. Yeah, Jamal Adams, interesting.
Once this NFL offseason began, we knew right from the jump that the Seattle Seahawks were going to make the right moves to jump this team up into, greatness, right? And from day one, they made a great move. They let go of the older Pete Carroll, brought in a younger, more dynamic head coach in Mike MacDonald, who spent a majority of his career over in Baltimore, but last couple of years as the defensive coordinator, where he led them to being one of the best defenses in the NFL for the past 2 seasons. Now, with that being said, everybody in Seattle is absolutely stoked to see what Mike MacDonald does next. However, he has already made an abundance of different moves, which we're going to talk about in this video, but he also just signaled the next move to come. Now, before we get any further into this video, check out this little clip by a former Baltimore Ravens Pro Bowl cornerback when he had something to say about Mike MacDonald. You guys are going to want to hear this.
The question was, what makes Mike MacDonald great?
He's kind of obsessive. He's watching film up until the last minute. He always goes in the back near the shower. Like, you go wherever away game you're at. I've always just noticed he's always just laying on the ground, watching film up until like the last moment he can watch film. And he's I would say all good coaches are probably very detailed.
Yeah.
But not all are detailed to the T of obsessive. And I think that's what makes him really good.
Now, with that being said, I think Seahawks fans should be absolutely enamored with the fact that he's in Seattle now. This guy is a genius. He's obsessive. You heard what Marlon Humphrey had to say. Now, comment down below a letter grade of this hiring for the Seahawks. But with that being said, let's now talk about the moves that he has already made to this team. Now, the first thing Mike MacDonald wanted to do here was kind of revamp this defense. He said from the jump, listen, I don't owe these guys nothing. I'm going to go ahead and let go of Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, some fan favorites here in Seattle for a decent amount of time, especially, Quandre Diggs. Jamal Adams, I feel like the time here in Seattle, it didn't work out the way people thought it would. And check out this little clip about what these analysts had to say about what Jamal Adams did here in Seattle.
It was a failed experiment in a lot of ways. Jamal Adams, incredible talent, right? But it never all seemed to kind of match up in Seattle. And then it's gotten to the point of all the injuries he's had to deal with, right? He's not the same player right now that he was 3-4 years ago. And I think a lot of that is just because he can't stay on the field and, get in a rhythm and get back in the flow of a football game, which there is something to that, even for the great football players. So, yeah, not shocked by this. We know that. Seattle pass defense has not been good the last few years.
Okay, did you hear what he said right there? The pass defense hasn't been that good over the last few years. Well, that's where Mike MacDonald comes in. And obviously, when you get rid of 2 guys like a Quandre Diggs and a Jamal Adams, you need to replace them. Now, we've already gotten some insane news on some guys they potentially want to bring in. Let's go over a couple of guys that you might see back with Mike MacDonald or for the first time join the Seahawks. Now, I would be stupid not to mention his former safety, Geno Stone. This might be one of the best 7th round picks that the Ravens have ever had. And that is a direct quote from their general manager, Eric DeCosta. He is an all-pro caliber free safety playing in MacDonald's scheme, starting a career-high 11 games in 2023. He picked off 7 passes for Baltimore's top-ranked defense, leading all NFL safeties, and quarterbacks averaged just 7.1 yards per reception and a passer rating of 53.3 when targeting Geno Stone. Now listen, he might not be the best tackler in the world, but if you want a safety who's, who's, 25 years old and has his best football in front of him, you go after Geno Stone, who is very familiar with Mike MacDonald already. Now, before we get into some more free agent fits that you could potentially be seeing here in Seattle, and also there's some major QB news that you guys need to know about as well. Geno Smith and a potential new Seahawks quarterback coming over here. Before we get into that, do me a favor, hit the like button just so we can get this video out to more Seahawks around the world, or Seahawks fans, obviously. But also subscribe to the channel. It is free, doesn't cost anything, and we're going to be covering the Seahawks for the rest of the offseason. I'm talking about free agency, the draft, mini camp, training camp, everything. Everything you could think of, I've got you guys covered. So join the family and comment down below the number 1 if you want to see me post more Seahawks videos throughout the next couple of weeks here. Now, the next big fish free agent safety that is out there that could potentially be in the running to go to Seattle is no other than young Alabama New York Giants safety Xavier McKenna. He had an excellent 2021 campaign, over 5 interceptions, 93 tackles, was insane, right? However, in 2023, he probably had his best all-around season, eclipsing over 100 tackles, 3 interceptions, allowing no touchdowns, and ranking 3rd among all safeties with a 52.1 passer rating in pass coverage. Due to his first-round pedigree, though, and his positional flexibility to play, in the slot as a safety, I think he will be on the more expensive side rather than a guy like Geno Stone. So real quickly, guys, comment down below, who do you think is the perfect fit here in Seattle at safety? Do you think it's Xavier McKenna? Do you think it's Geno Stone? Or would you rather go out and try to bring back Jamal Adams or Quandre Diggs for a cheaper, line? Now check this out. This is another big piece of news that literally just dropped a few hours ago. Mike MacDonald does not want to commit to Geno Smith as the Seahawks starter. Now, Geno Smith is a guy I personally like as a quarterback, but then again, it falls under the same impression that, Mike MacDonald owes him nothing. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we go into next season with a quarterback battle. I mean, Geno Smith is coming off a year where he threw about completed 64.7% of his passes, threw for over 3,600 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a little bit of a step back from 2022, but he also did play 2 games less. But with that being said, do you guys think that Geno Smith should be back as the starting quarterback next season, or should they trade down in the draft, trade up in the draft to get a quarterback, or should they bring in a free agent like Russell Wilson, who, obviously spent time in Seattle? Could he come back? Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? Kirk Cousins is out there. But then there's one more guy who has been going under the radar for the Seahawks that they could potentially be trading for in the next couple of weeks, or maybe even days. And it is Justin Fields. Now, look at this tweet from Ari Mirov. The Justin Fields trade market is so interesting. He talks about the Falcons, the Steelers, the Bucks, the Vikings, the Broncos, and even the Raiders. But then the last team he mentions, he says the Seahawks have felt like an under-the-radar team who have some interest. But the point is, the trade market doesn't seem to be as robust as some would have thought. Now, with that being said, obviously the Justin Fields trade market might not be what the Bears thought it was going to be. Maybe the offers aren't as high as they thought it would be or would like them to be, which means that any one of these teams could sweep in and bring in Justin Fields. Now, the Seahawks are a team who have a new head coach here in Mike MacDonald. They are, exploring different areas of new quarterbacks that they could potentially bring in, and Justin Fields has to be on top of this list. Now, you guys could feel different. However, in my opinion, Justin Fields is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. Listen, I know to begin the season, the man was terrible, and I get that, okay? I get it. But he is 25 years old. We all know, when quarterbacks fully develop, it's not this age yet. It's maybe 27, 28 is when, quarterbacks start to hit their prime. And quite frankly, they can play until they're 40. I mean, when did Geno Smith hit his prime? Think about that, okay? Now, Justin Fields is the guy that can do a little bit of both. I think that the fact that he's about to get replaced is going to light a fire underneath him. I think this is going to be when you start to see Justin Fields really start to turn it up. I mean, he threw 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, over 2,500 yards, but threw a career high in yards, completion percentage. He had his most completions ever. I mean, he put up a bunch of career highs, but also was really deadly on the ground as well, putting up over 650 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards per carry as well. Listen, Justin Fields may not be where he is supposed to be. He might not be the player you expect him to be yet, but I'm telling you right now, if the Seahawks find a way to land Justin Fields and at least give him a shot to win the starting quarterback job of Geno Smith, he could completely turn around this team. I mean, think about Lamar Jackson and what he did in Baltimore. Now you have Mike MacDonald, who I know isn't, quite frankly, an offensive guy, but could bring the same things out of Justin Fields as he did Lamar Jackson. Now, before we head out of this video, please comment down below, what do you think is the biggest position of need in this free agency for the Seahawks? Obviously, you look at the safety position and there are a ton of free agents on the market. Who should they bring in? But also, you have to look at a quarterback, a D tackle, a tight end with Will Dissly gone now. I mean, who is a tight end going to be? Potentially Brock Bowers. Do they trade up for Brock Bowers? That could be interesting. There's so many things the Seahawks could do this offseason, but over the next few days, over the next few weeks, we're going to start to hear a lot of things going around the NFL and Mike MacDonald making this team a playoff contender once again. Guys, comment down below what you think they should do. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, join the family, turn on post notifications so you're notified every time we post an update for the Seahawks. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next update.